So a quick shout out to the Amigos team of tech experts and session producers. You've been a great partner and we appreciate you very much. We may not be in Tulsa physically, but as a member of our scheduled host city, I want to ask my friend and colleague, Kim Johnson, CEO of the Tulsa City County Library, to introduce our keynote speaker. Kim, thank you for being a part of the conference and for TCCL's support of OLA and for your support of everything that we're doing locally and regionally for librarians and the citizens of Oklahoma. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm thrilled to be here with each of you today, and I'm honored to introduce keynote speaker Clifton Taulbert. Clifton Taulbert is the president and CEO of the Keynote Corporation. He has written 14 books, produced a major motion picture, and served as a consultant on several documentaries. At a time in our country when we are facing unprecedented events and many uncertainties, there's one voice that can quiet the noise around us to remind us that our presence matters, and that voice belongs to none other than Clifton Taulbert. Please welcome Clifton Taulbert.
You're unmuted. You're good.
Have I started?
Yes, you're up.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good morning.
It's amazing that 113 years ago, several people, not understanding, not recognizing that this day would come, several people got together to create what we now have as the Oklahoma Library Association. And when I thought about that, I thought about the cross-pollination of ideas. Even then, it was clearly understood the importance of people working together to make things work for the rest of the times. And so today we celebrate that initial group that came together to create this organization. But also today, as we find ourselves being surrounded by technology in a way that many of us, especially me, had never dreamed of before, it's amazing that the show goes on and people still matter. And so I'm delighted today that we are celebrating all that you have done as librarians and the incredible work you do throughout the state of Oklahoma, not only for the young people who cross your path, but for the adults who have found that the libraries of the 21st century are more like the epicenters of the town halls of yesterday. There's very little you can't find at your local library, and the librarians are there to help you make a difference in your life and to do the things that you can't do otherwise. So we celebrate that. But today we also celebrate the hanging of a jersey. John Lewis is no longer with us, and by the end of the day, his jersey will be hung for the world to see. But we have to ask ourselves a more important question: who would take his place? Those who play on the field of justice, those players must always be there, and that player can always be one of us. And that is why I have chosen to talk today about your personal presence and to leave you with the idea that no matter what happens in technology, no matter what happens in that particular arena, that your presence still matters. So we're moving our slides, may move a little slow today, but we have it all worked out, and I'm learning to the big blue button and all of these types of things that I didn't know before. So thanks to the library for continuing to impact my life. And the Tulsa County Library, of all places, is really where I first started writing in Oklahoma. I would come on Saturday mornings and I would check out every book I could possibly find. Now it is much easier to do, but then I would sit there and in the library, my life as a writer would start. And some 20, 30 years later, here I am addressing the OLA. What a wonderful time, a wonderful place to recognize that our presence matter. As you look at this photograph of the Assembly Hall of the United Nations, I want you to know that I had the opportunity to speak there, to talk about the people in my life and how important they had been, And it was because of them that I was no longer in the Mississippi Delta, but I was now across 46th Street in New York City, getting ready to make an address to the world. But it was amazing to know that people were important along that journey. And along that journey were librarians as well. And the journey continues. Excuse me. I have my water to help me get through this. But I am a writer. But how did it all start? And I thought about being sequestered, being quarantined, all of these types of things. Well, this happened in 1965. The Vietnam War was going on, and I was a young soldier. And my barracks was destined to be in Saigon. So I lived with fear every single day. I lived with fear. But instead of letting that fear just totally absorb my life, I began to crawl up in a corner and began to take my mind back to the Mississippi Delta. I began to think about all the people that had really played a role in my life and began to write notes about them. And those notes being written would take my mind off of the possibilities of being shipped to Saigon. I would just write these notes. But little did I know that 24 years later, those notes that were written while I was in self-quarantine at Dow Air Force Base in Bangor, Maine, would become my first 3 books. Once Upon a Time When We Were Colored, The Last Train North, and Watching Outcrops Come In. Sometimes being quiet and sometimes finding ourselves in an isolated moment provides for a greater sense of creativity to come about. So I would suggest to all of us that now that we are finding ourselves with more time, it may be time to think about our lives, the journey that we've made, and the incredible people who were part of that journey. So 24 years later, Once Upon a Time When We Were Colored came out. And I remember distinctively that I said to myself that this book would only be for my family and for my friends, because I had written about a small town and just ordinary people. But little did I know that that idea of writing thank you, because it became a thank you card to the people of the Delta who had literally transformed my life, that I was not just writing for myself, but I was writing for others as well. And this to me is what the librarians and the libraries have done all over the world, and certainly within the state of Oklahoma. Provides the opportunity for us to understand the incredible stories of this incredible country, because it is within each of us, all of our stories woven together become the journey of America. We can't tell America's story and leave any story out. All of our stories have a very significant place in the ARC Annals of History. But I'm your guest today because these ordinary Delta field workers understood the power of community and the impact of their presence upon the lives of others. And that is not unlike the librarians. Librarians literally embrace their jobs. They embrace the idea that I am here, I have the books, I have the information, I have the past and the potential for the future, all located in one spot. And we have a place for you. And today, as we look at technology, has even provided more opportunity for the librarians to do more than they ever dreamed they could do before. But in my world growing up as a kid, the people of the Delta, many of them, their stories were the stories that I read. And they became the books that I would write about and the stories that I would tell. And I call my Delta people the porch people of the 21st century. And I call the librarians the new porch people of the 21st century, because you have the answers that we're seeking. You have the books that we need to read. You have the hot spots that we need to experience. Everything that we need in order to move our lives along in a positive way, we can find it at our local library. And if it is not at Library A, there's a way to go to Library C, download it, find it, and make it happen. The idea of libraries working together is absolutely meaningful to the 21st century and how we work together. Now, inside your personal presence, what's there? First of all, nurturing attitude is there. Responsibility is inside each librarian. Dependability is there. Showing up every day, showing up all through the day. Friendship is there. Because when I walk into the Tulsa Library and I have my little card that I want somebody to grab it from me and show me how to stamp it, I love seeing that card stamped because very seldom do I have money. So I love the card being stamped. So thank you for stamping that card. But that's what friendship is about. When that smiling person walks up to you and say, "May I help you?" Sisterhood, brotherhood is there. It doesn't matter who we are or from what side of the town we've come. The fact is that now we have come to our library, our local library. So sisterhood and brotherhood is there. High expectations is there. Courage is there, as well as hope. And these 8 habits of the heart, they are your personal presence. I remember several years ago, I had the opportunity to do work for Ford Motor Company. And we were walking up the elevator to go to the dining room for lunch. And the CIO simply made a statement that I will never forget. He said, "Clifton, I have read 8 Habits of the Heart. And I wonder what could happen at Ford if every employee found himself and herself being surrounded by multiple micro dosages of unselfishness on a regular basis." And this is what we can find at our local library. Multiple micro dosages of unselfishness lived out as our librarians takes us into worlds we have never been, into worlds that we know, and into places where we are not comfortable, and into places where we feel at home. The libraries can take us to all of those places as well as the librarians themselves. This is the first habit of the heart, nurturing attitude. It is about the unselfish use of time. And this is what a librarian does. When that librarian comes to work, they are planning to make their visitor's day the best day possible. It's about the unselfish use of time. It's about my great-grandparents and their ability to take that 1947 Buick and literally take me from Glen Allen, Mississippi to Greenville. Well, what does a library do? It has a book that can take you from Tulsa, Oklahoma to Mumbai, India. Wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do, the librarians can get you there. And the unselfish use of time makes it all possible. The next habit of the heart is responsibility. This is tasking and learning together. And I can literally remember the librarians leaning over my shoulder when I would get all of those books up. Now, Clifton, what are you reading now? What are you trying to find out? And I'm trying to find out something about the Delta before I was born. So now we are scrambling through these books together. We're tasking and learning together because it's about us together. It's about the library, and it's about what the library brings into our lives. And this is Uncle Cleve. Uncle Cleve was like my librarian because when I needed to know about life and entrepreneurship and how to dream bigger dreams, Uncle Cleve became that person for me. And he made responsibility come alive. And this is what our librarians do as well. And I celebrate you. I literally celebrate each one of you that are listening now for the work that you do and for the work that you will do, because you are bringing responsibility to life. The next habit of the heart is dependability, giving and keeping your words. You know, the librarians put out a lot of information, and we hold you to that. And guess what? You answer our questions, and you are beholden to bring to pass and to bring to reality all that you have promised. All of the programs for the young people, the programs for the adults, the program for the homeless, the programs for those who are trying to find jobs. You have become a dependable place. You have become those people that can bring answers when questions are being raised. And that is what my great aunt did for me. She was the epitome of dependability. Having to travel 100 miles round trip to school every day for 4 years would not have been possible had it not been for her dependability. She stood on the front porch and pulled the strings on a 60-watt light bulb every single day for 4 years to make sure that I would catch that bus and go to school. I graduated valedictorian of my class, having never missed one day out of school. And today a member of Phi Beta Kappa, simply because an older lady in the Mississippi Delta decided to make dependability real. And this is what librarians do every single day. Your dependability allows thousands of people to see their dreams come true, to have their questions answered, and to have their lives made better. The next habit of the heart is friendship, and that is building bridges that last a lifetime. And I can tell you, when you go to the library, as much as I did historically, you get to know the people, and they know you, they know your name. And if they haven't seen you for a while, where have you been? This is a library. This is a library at large, becoming who they are, making friendship actually what it really truly is. Our ability to clearly understand that we can support each other, we can depend upon each other, and we can be friends. I remember introducing a friend of mine to a friend of mine at the library, and we had this great conversation right in the hall, and it was as if we were the only 3 people there making this friendship happen. But this is what it becomes our front room. It becomes our place to be, even though hundreds of people will walk through there. But when you walk through it, it becomes your library. And the friendship that you experience, the same as the friendship that I experienced in the Mississippi Delta, those friendships will build bridges that will literally last a lifetime. The next habit of the heart is sisterhood and brotherhood. This is the habit about reaching beyond comfortable, stretching your table. And the library in our city, the library in our state, the libraries in our state, they are welcoming places for literally all of us. No matter who we are, no matter what side of the town we live on, no matter our ethnicity, no matter the gender, no matter anything at all, the library says, welcome. And to me, this is the essence of a stretched table. The library has stretched its table and has provided a seat for every Oklahoman. We are incredibly lucky. For May 16th, 1907, 113 years ago, when several people got together to formulate and to form this collection of minds to work together, cross-pollinate ideas, share information, and we have continued to do likewise. Wow, that's amazing. The next habit of the heart is high expectations. High expectations is expecting the best of others. I don't know if you realize this, but our library has been remodeled and renovated. Our library, expecting the best of us. Our library has created a place in which we are all quite proud. And I remember having to walk through the library when it was being remodeled. But what I remember most was the pride of the workers, because I think they clearly understood that they were creating something that would be absolutely outstanding. And their expectations, their hearts, and their minds went into that in such a way that they couldn't wait to explain to you what that empty wall would really turn out to be. And it was amazing how they could make you see it, and they could make you see it because they had high expectations for what they were doing, because they understood that the library, that would be a central place in Tulsa. And all of the libraries around the state are those central places where we can come, we can share knowledge, we can learn, and we can understand more, and we can accomplish more than we ever thought we could, because the libraries are there to help us to be that next level of success. When I think of high expectations, I think of the old African in the Mississippi Delta. Because when I was growing up, unfortunately, the libraries that I loved, they were closed to me. I couldn't go to the library as a young boy. But the old African would gather books that were tossed away, and he would come into our world on Saturdays, and we would line up on the front porches of our grandparents' home. And there, the old African, in his stuttering voice, he would read to us from the books that he had gathered, not realizing that one day the libraries would be ours. But for those days, the library was not mine. I didn't have the pleasure of walking into the room as I currently do today. So when I celebrate librarians and librarians, I celebrate the journey that we have all made together, a journey that justice calls for, a journey that loving and caring calls for. And we have made our libraries in the state of Oklahoma those incredible places to be. High expectations are what we expect of every citizen, and the libraries of Oklahoma are there to see that those expectations become part of our lives. As Emily Dickinson said, and I agree wholeheartedly, there is no frigate like a book to take you to places that you have never been, shores you have never seen, and people you can hardly imagine. The next habit of the heart is courage. Doing what is right, speaking out for others. We have seen libraries across our country just become places of courage where we can find out how the past was, but more importantly, how the future can be. The libraries have become places where courage can be increased and our fears can be subsided, because we now have the stories of those who have walked before us, and they have left us clear paths, and many of those paths will lead us through the libraries of our communities. Courage is doing what is right and speaking out for others. Reverend Roy Grisham, the picture that you see, is a face of courage on the campus of Ole Miss in the 1960s when the schools were being integrated. He opened up his church as the pastor of the United Methodist Church on the campus of the university so that the students of color would have a place to hide, not to worship, but simply to hide. But he became a person of courage, always remembered, always celebrated, as our librarians are as well, because librarians join the march for justice, and we celebrate and appreciate all that you do. And lastly, the last habit of the heart is hope. It is going beyond what is seen. It is believing for tomorrow. And this is indeed what a library is. It is the place where hope lives. It is the place where justice literally comes to life for all of us. We can find our stories there. We can tell our stories to others. We can find a little corner, cross our legs, sit on the floor, read a book, think about tomorrow and how we want it to be. And as we go through these times now through COVID-19, I can't breathe, Black Lives Matter, social justice, our libraries will always be one of the places we can go and find the comfort that we need, the stories that we read. Because after today, we will have a place in the libraries of the world and those of Oklahoma, the life and legacy of John Lewis. We will be able to go to our libraries and relive the walk across the Pettus Bridge in Alabama. Our libraries will provide us that opportunity. And hope will come alive as we read the stories of others, because this is what the library does. It is the place where hope will forever live and dreams will forever be forthcoming. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you this morning, to share with you what is very important to me. There's nothing like a book, and there's nothing like a library to keep them all together. Thank you very much.
Clifton,
The lives we read make us stronger. You are the library. Your presence matters.
Clifton, thank you very much. I know that as we go through these different formats, and you had mentioned earlier in some of our conversations, learning Zoom and now Big Blue Button, and I'm sure there'll be another platform that you're learning next week. We want to thank you for continuing to share with OLA and Oklahoma's libraries about the power of our presence. It was a wonderful message, such inspiring words, and really a call to action to remember that our presence is powerful. And it was really interesting to me to see how your message also aligned with one of our pre-conference speakers yesterday, a former Oklahoma representative who is now a CEO of one of our local chambers. He presented in the Connected Library pre-conference, and he shared that libraries were trusted advisors and that we must continue to be honest brokers of information. And Clifton, he didn't mention the 8 habits of the heart when he made that comment, but it certainly is in alignment with what you've shared this morning. And I think it bears all of us to remember, all librarians, everyone that's working day in and day out in our communities, whether that's a school community or an academic community or our larger public communities. I think it bears a great burden on us to remember that we are changing lives daily. And every day when we show up to do the work that we have to remember that our presence is powerful, and we have to make sure that our best self is with us that day, because we want to make good, lasting memories like the ones that you have of the work that we've done. So thank you again, and lots of things in the chat about how great the message was. So we want to thank you for joining us. And I'd like for everybody to just go ahead and give you another quick round of applause. So I know you don't get a lot of that feedback virtually, but thank you, Clifton, so much. And Kim, thank you for being here to introduce Clifton. Wow.
Thank all of you very much.
Great message. A great message, Clifton. One of the things that's a little bit different this year than has been in some of our past conferences is that we have 6 presenting sponsors over the course of this week and the conference and the various parts of it. And this morning, our keynote was really combined with our opening session. And had we been in person in Tulsa, we would have had our keynote speaker. Clifton would have joined us last night at the banquet. So this morning we have 2 presenting sponsors. We have our keynote presenting sponsor, which is Orange Boy, and we have our opening session presenting sponsor, which is Brodart. And I'm very happy that both Clark and George are with us this morning. And I want to just introduce, first of all, Clark Swanson of Orange Boy to you. And we're going to hear a presenter spotlight message from Clark. Clark has always been fascinated by how people make decisions. And this fascination led him to found Orange Boy with a commitment to enhancing organizations everywhere with behavioral analytics. Prior to founding Orange Boy, Clark was the principal administrator of the Ohio Historical Foundation and worked in Economic Research Division at the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City. Away from Orange Boy, Clark and his bride and business partner, Sandy Swanson, collect mid-century American furniture. Clark also has an avid interest in the study of physics, focusing on quantum electrodynamics, the stuff that makes your cell phone work. An avid runner, Clark has completed more than 15 marathons, including the Boston Marathon, and he now trains for a series of October marathons that have been canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Sandy, Clark, and George, their third Orange Boy, reside in the first automobile garage built in Columbus, across the alley from the main library book drop. Clark, we want to thank you and Sandy for Orange Boy's support. We want to thank you for being here this morning. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say that's going to follow the great message we've already heard. I think you're still muted, Clark.
Thank you. Now, there we go. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to follow your keynote address. I've had an interest in the Delta ever since I visited the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum in Jackson, Mississippi. It's an unusual place where a whole cadre of entrepreneurs came from, and it's interesting lessons in life. If you get a chance to go to Jackson and visit the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum, you will be rewarded. It is a wonderful story of how a group of people overcame structural racism in ways that we simply do not understand. And it had a profound change on me. So I encourage you, great keynote address, sir. And if you get that chance, visit Jackson, Mississippi to see that museum. I want to talk today about something our speaker echoed, which is community. This is something that has been on my mind, has been on our company's mind for about the last 6 months. I often hear that people need public libraries more than ever today. And obviously that's true. But more than that, people need the leadership provided by public libraries today. It's the process of going from a passive participant to an active participant. That is to say, understanding that we have to lead our communities, move people forward during this time of uncertainty and doubt. This has been something that we have thought about a great deal as we visited our libraries throughout the United States. And one of the things that we're starting to see, and one of the things I think is very important, is really the push forward out of the boundaries of the public library. That is to say, really being able to move into neighborhoods, areas, census tracts that are considered to be non-traditional library users, moving into those areas and actively working with people to bring them in or bring them or marry them to library resources. This is critically important. We can no longer sit in our buildings and wait. We have to move forward. This has been something that we've started investing our development resources into doing. And you'll see this come through in the next 8 to 12 months when we will introduce a companion service to our Savannah platform. Called Community Management, this platform will enable libraries to target, to target areas that have low library utilization and high need, not necessarily for library services, but needs that the library can help meet, and be able to push forward, working with ad hoc relationships, long-term partners in the community to really push forward and make inroads into addressing many of the critical structural issues that have been talked about the past 3 months. This is something very near and dear to our hearts, particularly Sandy and myself. We live in downtown Columbus in a community that is both high need, but also a high resource community. And we have to work very hard to make sure that we address the needs of the entire community and not simply a few. And this is a challenge that is in particular. So as you go through the next few days, please keep in mind our keynote's thoughts. Please keep in mind his commitment to community. Please keep in mind that we have come very far from those days of the Delta that he described, but we have a long way to go. And we see this every day in our community, as I'm sure you've seen yours. Lisa, I'm so very proud of you and your team at the Oklahoma Library Association for really pivoting on this conference. Several months ago, I sent Lisa my airline confirmation for my trip to Tulsa because I knew there would be a conference. But I just had to cancel those this morning, by the way. But anyway, sorry that we can't see you in person, but we know of your good work. Take this opportunity to process our keynote thoughts. Also remember the great price that was paid to bring us to this point, and redouble our commitment to move forward. So I thank you all very much. Good luck, and hope that everybody walks away with a greater sense of purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Clark. We appreciate you and Sandy so much, and your team, and the work that you all are doing to make sure that we are really responding to our customers' needs, and also for us to continue to remember community and again, that great work that we're all doing. So thank you for being with us virtually. I look forward to seeing you in person. I was going to say the near future, but I don't think that will happen. But in the future, I look forward to that, and hope that you can continue to visit the Oklahoma Library Association. And I know that you will. So thank you for being the presenting sponsor, Clark, for our keynote. Our next presenting sponsor is Brodart. I get the pleasure of introducing George Coe to you this morning. He's the president and CEO of Brodart. And before recently rejoining Brodart and taking on the role of CEO and president, George held a number of other positions, including some at Brodart about 20 years ago. But George brings over 40 years of experience in the library industry, 20 of those being with Brodart. George is entrepreneurial at heart and continually seeking opportunities to innovate and grow. He was instrumental in bringing about a number of major industry developments, such as expanding the areas of collection development, custom cataloging, circulation and collection analysis, and more. In addition, he's an accomplished executive with a strong track record of developing new products, improving operational efficiencies, and exercising sound financial oversight. Along with his contributions to serving on a multitude of boards, he has also served as a keynote speaker to several industry seminars and conventions. George's strong track record of business leadership is recognized for his visionary thinking, innovation, and operational results in the content distribution industry. George, we want to welcome you. We can't wait to hear your presenting sponsor spotlight. And I want to just say that Pioneer has been a great partner with Brodart for over 35 years, and we appreciate your connection to Oklahoma Library Association. And likewise, we have some great friends that are staff of yours. And George, we just want to hear what you have to say and to appreciate you for your support of the Oklahoma Library Association.
Wow, thank you for that wonderful introduction, Lisa. First off, I want to say thank you to OLA and to all its members. Last week, Lisa presented Brodart with a very distinguished award, and we're extremely proud to have received it. And I really would like to just thank everybody. It is the Robert Motter Vendor Appreciation Award. It's going to be proudly displayed in our office and represent your acknowledgement for what we are. It is our mission statement to help libraries to be your partner with value-added services that we believe excels the amazing resource that libraries are. And particularly during this crisis situation, we're in this together, partnering to help and reopen libraries in a safe and amazing resource that you are. On our next slide. So a little bit about Brodart. The company is 80 years old, servicing libraries, academic schools, publics, And we're a very unique and comprehensive supplier. We're the only supplier that actually can supply virtually anything in the four walls of the library. We're a comprehensive and premier supplier for books and services. We dedicate our operations to contract customized dedicated furniture, and we have over 20,000 unique supplies for libraries in all aspects of librarianship. We've been partnering with many of the libraries in Oklahoma, and we want to say thank you for working with Brodart and serving your services with Brodart. It means a lot to us. And as Lisa said, we've been working with Pioneer, I guess 39 years. Is that the total? We're working on 40. We want to round it up. And many of the universities, colleges, and schools and your members, thank you very much for acknowledging Brodart. And we wish you a very productive and resourceful virtual seminar. Thank you. Lisa, you're on mute.
Well, thanks, George. I think I muted when I thought I unmuted. I said Tuesday in our membership meeting that the great thing about being virtual is that you don't have to worry about tripping on the steps while you're going to the stage to speak. But what you do have to worry about is unmuting your mic or muting your mic, or is your video cam working? So I'm not sure what's easier. But anyway, thank you all for being a part of this morning. It was a great way to kick off our virtual OLA session, the 113th conference, but yet the first virtual conference for the association. So we just want to express our gratitude to each of you for spending an hour of your morning with us. And to all of our members and our attendees, I want to just say, wow, what a way to start the day. Clifton, if I could schedule just like a 10-minute morning with you every day, I think the end of my day would be so much better because I would be so inspired. And I'm always excited to hear what's new and coming down the pike in the library world. So Clark and George, thanks for those inspirational comments, and we look forward to working with you in the future. And it looks like everybody has just about 15 minutes for a short comfort break before our 10 o'clock session, which is something about two people walking into a bar. So I know we don't want to miss that. Please join in and see what they're going to say. I don't know if it's going to include a mimosa or not, but we look forward to seeing everybody at 10.